Have you ever heard somebody tell you that you should not carry a firearm and also a less lethal tool like pepper spray, because if you are forced to shoot somebody in self-defense, then you will automatically be arrested because you did not try to use that less than lethal tool first? Well, today we're going to learn why that is mostly a myth right after the channel intro.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Ambulance en route.
So this is something that I've heard many times in this community, that you should not carry pepper spray or some other form of less lethal tool along with your firearm if you carry a firearm to defend yourself, because if you shoot somebody in self-defense that you'll automatically be arrested because you did not try to use that less lethal tool first. So today we're going to see how that statement is malarkey, at least most of the time. Now let's just first clarify this. When I say less lethal tool, I'm talking about something like pepper spray or a stun gun or a taser or something like that. So here is something that I want you to consider, because this will help you to understand if you must try to use less lethal first if you're carrying a firearm and it's a self-defense situation. So the first thing to consider is your self-defense situation, does it justify deadly use of force reaction from you? And to kind of clarify that, your attacker, is he presenting a deadly threat to you? Does he like have a knife? Or does he have a gun? Or is he twice your size and half your age? Or is he presenting some kind of a threat to you that would not pose a deadly threat to you, such as just wanting to push you or something to that effect? So to answer this question for this video, most areas that allow self-defenders to carry weapons to defend themselves, they will not expect you to try pepper spray or some other less lethal tool first before resorting to your firearm in a true deadly force situation. They're just not going to expect you to try to use your pepper spray first and then only resort to your firearm if your pepper spray fails in a true life or death situation. Think about it this way. If I am out in public and some guy pulls a knife out on me and I am carrying both pepper spray and a firearm, and I am within his striking distance of that knife, if I try to use my pepper spray first, he will probably stab me a dozen times, if not more, before that pepper spray takes effect to his eyes and allow me to escape.
See?
Check it out! Let's go! Come on, let's go! Get down, get down! There you go! There you go!
Off your knees, off your knees.
Come on, come on! There you go!
Two-hand carry.
Get back, get back!
Two-hand carry. Blink those eyes. Blink those eyes.
Get back! There you go, man. Just tell them what you want. Tell them what you want.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Kick,
Leg kick. Get your hand up, get your hand up, get your hand up. Get your hand up, there you go.
There you go.
Get your hand up, get your hand up.
And if I am carrying a typical stun gun, then that means that I have to be in arm's reach of him to hit him with that stun gun, which then means that he is in his arm's reach of me to stab me when I'm trying to hit him with that stun gun. And as far as tasers are concerned, while they are excellent self-defense tools, they do have a high failure rate. Taser barbs get caught in folds of clothing. Sometimes one of the barbs miss. There's too much of a chance that a taser will not be effective when your life is on the line. One of the things that I've noticed in states or areas that have good, strong self-defense laws that favor the self-defender instead of the criminal is most of the states' laws will have the wording over and over again in their law, the word reasonable. And so when you shoot somebody in self-defense, again, this is in a state that has decent self-defense laws, if you shoot somebody in an area like that, what the courts are generally going to care about was your level of force that you used against the bad guy, was that level of force reasonable? And if a bad guy has pulled a knife on you, or is starting to pull a gun on you, or has a bat out and getting ready to hit you, most areas that have good self-defense laws will find that you using deadly force against an attacker like that, such as shooting him, would be reasonable. So if you carry both pepper spray or taser or stun gun or whatever, and also a firearm, and if an attacker pulls a knife out on you and you shoot him, in most areas that have actual self-defense laws, they're not going to care if you had pepper spray and if you tried to use that first or not. Most states, their criminal courts, their judicial system, what they're going to care about was if your shooting of that bad guy was reasonable or not. First, most areas don't want you using deadly force against an attacker until it's a last resort, until if you don't act, if you don't defend yourself, you're going to die within seconds or within moments. To kind of simplify that, if a guy calls you up and says, hey, tomorrow at noon, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to shoot you. So to preempt that, you go to his house that evening. You don't wait till noon the next day. You go to his house that evening. You hide in his bushes. When he walks out of his house, you shoot him. You know, in actuality, that is a self-defense shooting. But your life is not in imminent danger because you weren't going to die till noon the next day, or have a possibility of dying till noon the next day. But if an attacker approaches you in a parking lot or an alley or something like that and he pulls a knife out on you, that's all it takes for him to inflict a potentially deadly wound to you. So again, if you live in an area that actually allows you or allows self-defenders to carry weapons to defend themselves, again, they're not going to expect you to try to use less lethal force first before resorting to your firearm if you are in a situation where you are going to die within seconds or moments if you don't use force at that moment to save your life. And you may notice in this video that I keep using the terms "and in most states" or "in most areas," and that's because, you know, the United States is made up of many different states, and we have to remember that there is no one self-defense law that sweeps the entire United States. And then heck, outside of the United States, you've got different countries that all have their different self-defense laws. For example, my state has the Castle Doctrine and also the Stand Your Ground law. That means that if a burglar breaks into my house, I don't have to try to escape out of my house. If a burglar breaks into my house, I can automatically start using deadly force against that attacker, because my state has the belief that if a burglar breaks into your house, that it's pretty reasonable to believe that he's not there to bake you a birthday cake, and that there's a real high probability that he's going to injure you. And then with the Stand Your Ground law, if an attacker starts to attack me or something like that, my state has the belief that I am legally where I'm at, therefore I do not have to leave that area, that the attacker should be the one that should be legally expected to leave that area. But you, as a self-defender, you need to know your state's or your area's self-defense laws. While I'm not expected to retreat, are you expected to retreat? Are you even allowed to carry a gun for self-defense? Are you even allowed to carry pepper spray for self-defense? Now, it's also important for us to remember that there are two court systems, at least across much of the United States. There is the criminal court system, where you stand to lose your freedom if you're convicted of a crime. And then there is the civil court system, where citizens can sue each other if they feel like one person has wronged the other person. So that's just important to remember, because if you shoot a bad guy in self-defense, no matter how justified you are, you still risk being sued by that bad guy if he survives the shooting, or if that is a fatal shot or shots that you give that bad guy, then his family can still sue you in civil court. Now, real quick, anybody can sue anybody in civil court. So when you defend yourself, when you do defend yourself against a bad guy, I'm not saying that you're automatically going to get sued or that you're automatically going to lose in court. What I'm just saying is that you can get sued. I'm just not saying that it's going to automatically be a successful suit where you lose in civil court. So in a case where you use deadly force to defend yourself, while it may be deemed justifiable in criminal court, the cops might come up, pat you on the back, say, hey, good shooting, good self-defense shooting, he was a bad guy, we arrest him every week and the courts just let him back out. You just have to remember that when it comes time to civil court, that a greedy attorney may try to argue that you should have used your pepper spray or something like that before having resorted to your firearm to defend yourself, even if it is clearly a deadly force situation for you. But even if you do only carry a firearm and you don't carry pepper spray or something else like that, and you do use deadly force to defend yourself, a greedy attorney could still sue you, saying that you should have carried pepper spray, that you could have used that first instead of going straight to deadly force. Just something to consider there. So it's just something to remember, is that any time that you use force, whether it's non-deadly force or deadly force, but any time that you use force to protect yourself and your attacker is injured, you always risk a greedy attorney trying to get money out of you. And that is where belonging to some kind of a legal defense fund like the USCCA or something like that, there's plenty of companies out there, but that's where belonging to a legal defense fund really comes in handy should you have to defend yourself, especially if you end up having to shoot somebody or use deadly force to defend yourself. Having an attorney that knows how to articulate how use of force situations actually go down, having somebody like that on your side that knows how to, again, articulate that and explain that to a jury and to a judge and everybody like that, is really what is going to really help you out tons in that legal battle, that battle after your initial battle. Now, personally, I think it is smart to carry both non-lethal and lethal self-defense weapons. Heck, while I'm on duty, I carry taser, pepper spray, baton, and a firearm. Simply put, less than lethal tools give you more options to defend yourself. Let's use an example. Let's say that another male that's close to my age and my size gets mad at me or gets into an argument with me over the last parking spot in a grocery store parking lot. And so again, this male that's pretty close to my age and my size, he takes a normal fighting stance with me. In my area, it would be illegal, it would be unjustified for me to shoot that guy. Now, that would be a situation that my area would say that I was using deadly force in a situation that did not justify deadly force. So that's a situation where having something like pepper spray would come in handy. That could, possibly allow me to spray that pepper spray, and within a few moments, depending on your pepper spray, but depending on your pepper spray, but within a few moments, his eyes will start closing up. It'll make it difficult for him to see me, to strike me, which would allow me to escape and keep out of that fight a little bit easier. Now, if that guy got me down on the ground and had me pinned down on the ground and was on top of me and started bashing my head into the concrete, into the asphalt, now that would end up becoming a different situation. That would go from a situation that initially was not a deadly force situation and now has turned into a deadly situation for me. So that would be a situation where pepper spray would no longer be, reasonable to use in that situation, but transferring to a deadly force defense to save your own life, to save your brains from getting splattered on the sidewalk. And here's a quick tip to know if you would be justified in using pepper spray or some other tool like that if you live in an area that allows you to carry that for self-defense. But again, here's a real quick tip of if you would be justified to use that. If you would be justified, if it would be reasonable for you to punch your attacker or tackle your attacker or more, then you would usually be justified in using pepper spray to defend yourself in that situation. And also, folks, most of the examples that I'm using here is where you are a able-bodied male and your attacker is another able-bodied male that's approximately your same size. I don't want to get into disparity of force issues here because that is a whole different video that can be hours and hours long. And when I talk about disparity of force, is situations where you're an elderly person and your attacker is much younger than you, or you're a normal sized guy and you've got a 300-pound pro wrestler attacker attacking you, or a man attacking a female, etc. Now, I do think that some really important things to remember for all self-defense situations or confrontations are: first, don't ever be the aggressor, and make it be known, if possible, that you don't want any part of that confrontation. And if somebody starts yelling insults at you, instead of yelling insults back at them, just say, hey, just leave me alone, just let me be, or just whatever. But just, again, don't do anything that would escalate that confrontation, and don't do anything that would make it look like that you were a willing participant of that confrontation. Do everything that would show that you didn't want to be a part of it, and that the other person was the aggressor and was the one that escalated it. And then if you can safely remove yourself from that situation, then try to do so. I mean, if you can start backing up and putting your hands up and saying, hey, look, I don't want any issues, I don't want any problems, my apologies, or whatever, if you can do that stuff, those kind of actions will help you legally should you end up having to defend yourself. Killing somebody or violence of any kind should really always be a last resort. And you should only shoot somebody to save your life or somebody else's life, not just as a convenient option. So again, if you hear somebody make the blanket statement that if you carry both pepper spray or some other less lethal tool and also a firearm, and you hear them say if you automatically use your firearm in a deadly force situation, if you hear somebody make that blanket statement, again, just know that more than likely they are talking malarkey. So let's now make this video a wealth of information that may stumble across it. So please comment below with your thoughts on this subject. And if you do comment with the blanket statement that you will be arrested if you carry pepper spray and a firearm for self-defense, and you automatically use your firearm in a deadly force situation without trying to use your pepper spray first, then I want you to put your state's criminal code in your comment, because this does two things. If that law does exist in your state, then it will educate other people that live in your state of that law, plus it makes you research your state's laws. And if you would like to experience a video that teaches valuable survival lessons in a post-SHTF scenario video series where you choose the path that the story takes you, then click on the video that should be appearing at the top of the screen just about now to experience that. And to learn how you can use your cell phone to keep yourself out of jail after you've been forced to defend yourself, then click on the video that should be appearing on the right side of the screen just about now. Anyways, folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.